What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. In this one, it's FPL transfer tips time for game week 35. So we're taking a look at the transfer market, who's being brought, who's being sold, and analysing whether they are good moves or not. As normal now, because I'm trying to get a video out in the morning, so I can also do one this evening as well. I'm recording this a little bit in advance on Monday, so hopefully there's no major news affecting the players that I talk about, injuries or something like that, rescheduling of games, because who knows at this point, right? But we should be all good, but just take that into account. So give it a like if you enjoy it, hit that subscribe button if you're new around here, and let's jump into it. Okay, so let's start off with one of the players being heavily sold. Patrick Bamford, 116,992 transfers out already this week. Now, I suppose when we're talking about any players on this list, especially for the ones being transferred out, we have to take into account that people might be buying double game week players. And obviously that does make it a little bit different, because if you're doing that, you're hopefully bringing in a player that has an extra fixture this week and obviously doesn't blank in game week 36 as well, i.e. giving you one more fixture over Bamford all season. He is an interesting one in particular because he's someone that I'm actually looking to bring in, not for double game week 35, i.e. just game week 35 for him, Spurs at home, but for Burnley away, Southampton away, and West Brom at home. They are pretty good fixtures. We saw West Ham carved open Burnley quite a few times in the game on Monday night. Southampton away is a good fixture, and so is West Brom at home. I think with Bamford, one of the problems recently is Rafinha's been out, and that hasn't helped. He is one of the more creative players in that team. Harrison is to a certain extent as well, but Rafinha just offers so much to that Leeds attack that I think he has been a miss. So he's someone to monitor. Like if we get to Friday, press conference comes that Rafinha's going to be out for another week or two, then yeah, I can see a bigger reason to be getting rid of Bamford ahead of double game week 35. In general, we've gone a few weeks where there's been hardly any forward options outside of kind of Iheanacho, Vardy, and maybe a couple of others, to come into a point where there's actually going to be quite a few, I think, barring injury. So Bamford's fixtures from 36 get quite good. It's the same for West Ham as well. Antonio's back. Couldn't have done any more really, apart from score a hat-trick, I guess, which he came close to. But he got a brace on his first game back. West Ham have got some good fixtures to end the season as well. And obviously some people will be making a switch from Iheanacho. So I think, in general, like generic advice for this week, if you're getting rid of a player who you're going to want straight back the week after, I would really think carefully about whether you want to make that choice, because let's say, I don't know, just randomly you're bringing in Watkins, right? So Bamford to Watkins, and if you're thinking about reversing that straight away, that's two transfers, right? We don't have many transfers left. They're extremely precious at this time of the season. You want to use them carefully. The chances of Watkins, for example, scoring so many in a double game week to then warrant the points used for a transfer and then a transfer back is probably actually quite low. Obviously, there's CalvertLewin. He's got good fixtures to come as well. We're going to talk about him in a bit. But I like the look of Bamford if Rafinha's back. If he's not, I still like the fixtures, and I probably wouldn't use a transfer to get rid of him. But this week, if you're doing it for a double game week player, it's probably not the worst choice. So if you were watching the videos last week, you know that I think Calvert-Lewin is a good buy, right? Nearly 60,000 people have already done it. I'm sure that'll be higher by the time the video goes out. Really good double game week, really good game week 36. Not a bad game week 37. I think game week 38 is where the fixtures obviously get pretty bad for Everton when they have to play Man City, but it's definitely worth, before you make any transfers, using something like the live FPL transfer planner and see what your team looks like in 37 and 38, because if you potentially got a spare transfer in 38, you could take him back out then. Stats wise, last 6 matches, 2.73 expected goals, 11 shots in the box. I saw one of the comments last week when I spoke about him saying, how are you recommending a player that scored something like 3 in 10? And bam, he scored. This is why you've got to be careful of small sample sizes, right? A player as good as Calvert-Lewin, who this season, I'm just looking here, 0.5 XG per 90, right? That's like a goal every other game, or at least getting into the positions to get a goal every other game. That's decent, right? That's nearly 20 goals in a season. Last year it was 0.49. So he's basically maintained, and last season was pretty good. I know he went through a spell of not doing very well. He's done the same this season, but sometimes you just have to back the man, the team, and the fixtures. And West Ham away, the way they're defending at the moment, although I do think they were better against Burnley, is not that bad for Everton. And Villa away, I think, is good too. I don't think Grealish is going to be back, to be honest. I'd be surprised if we see Grealish again this season. But regardless of that, I know he's not a defender, but I think he does help them in defence by obviously helping attack more. So I think that's a good double game week. Sheffield United at home is about as good as it gets. in a single game week. And then Wolves at home is not ideal, but it's not awful either. So as a set of 4 fixtures over 3 game weeks, I really like CalvertLewin. Like I said just a minute ago, if you're doing a move like Bamford to CalvertLewin, I think there's not a lot in it. 1 extra fixture, but for the last 3 game weeks of the season, Bamford's decent. And Calvert-Lewin's got Wolves and Man City, so there's not a huge amount in it. Would I do that move? I probably would, especially if I was kind of lower down the ranks, because we haven't got that much time to get extra points now, right? There's only 4 game weeks left, and a double game week is one of the times you can definitely do that to a bigger extent maybe than you can in a single game week. So with the double game week fixtures looking good, 36 looking good, and Wolves being okay as well, plus just backing the man who's had great stats all season and a pretty good goal scoring rate, all things considered, I think he's a good buy. So I've obviously been doing these videos the last few weeks, and I've been checking every single week to look at top players transferred out, top players transferred in. And I don't recall, apart from when he first got injured, Cresswell being that high every single week. Then all of a sudden this week, he's come back, he's played against Burnley, got 4 great fixtures to end the season with, and now he's being transferred out by 60,000. Now again, people might be getting in double game week defenders, in which case fair enough. But I think West Ham's fixtures are pretty decent. I mean, Everton at home, obviously, I've just spoken about Calvert-Lewin. That's maybe a little bit tough. Brighton can be tough. West Brom and Southampton, definitely good fixtures. We know how creative he can be in an attacking sense as well. Defensively, there's obviously some concerns, right? And he's not exactly the cheapest defender either. He went up quite a lot given how good he went for West Ham earlier this season. So I'll just have a quick look here. He is currently 5.6 million. I know I need to put the price on the screen. I'm going to fix that, if not for this season, for next season. But he's 5.6 million, so he's not cheap. I thought West Ham defended a little bit better against Burnley. I think a lot of that was because they were able to retain the ball so much, and when they did lose it, they won it back. And I got to be honest, when I saw the team sheet, I didn't necessarily expect that to happen. I think it was Fornals and Lanzini as kind of a double pivot. Obviously, Souček was there as well. Sorry, it was Souček and Fornals, I think, and then Lanzini a bit further forward, and then obviously Lingard, Benrahma playing as well. But obviously, they're still missing Rice, which isn't ideal. Now, there was talk that both he and Antonio would make a return before the end of the season. Antonio's back, so we've got to wait for more word around Rice this week. But if he comes back, from off the top of my head, they're not really missing too many players. Obonna's still got a knock, but I thought Diop played quite well against Burnley. And then outside of that, they're just missing Rice and Noble. But obviously, if Rice is fit, Noble doesn't play anyway. And looking at the flags on West Ham, Noble's probably likely to be back sooner. So him coming into the middle alongside Souček would be pretty good as well. So again, if you're going for a double game week player, someone that you want to keep long term that doesn't affect your kind of the blanks in 36, etc., then fair enough. But I'd actually be tempted to hold, is Cresswell out a priority transfer for most people's teams? I'm not sure it is. And with the fixtures they got, I would say they're all pretty much green. Obviously, I'm not expecting them to keep 4 clean sheets, but could they keep 2 over this run? I think they could. They're still going for top 4. Every single win is still super important. They're getting most players back as well. Antonio's going to help them attack more, hold up the ball more, etc. I think I'd be tempted to keep Cresswell. Massive differential right now. And I'm not saying I wouldn't sell him for a double game week player in most cases, but only if it kind of doesn't stop you from making future transfers, etc., because of the blanks. Like, again, if you've got to transfer him in for a double game week player just to transfer them back out or someone else in 36, when you could have just kept Cresswell for Brighton, then West Brom, Southampton, you're probably worth keeping. So I think the time for selling Cresswell is probably gone. But I guess wait for more info on Rice this week, Declan Rice. And if he isn't going to be back for the rest of the season or something like that, I don't know if Moyes would actually rule him out for that long. But yes, that would make West Ham a little bit worse defensively, and then maybe Cresswell could be sold. But if you've held on this long, perhaps just hold on a bit longer. So maybe even more so than Cresswell, I was quite surprised to see Ward-Prowse feature on the list. 76,000 transfers already in for him. And I can see why. I stepped back a bit and had to think why. And obviously he took the penalty against Leicester, plus he's got a double game week to come, and he's cheap too. So I kind of get it, right? I'm looking at him here. He's 5.8 million. There's not too many cheap options right now that are kind of guaranteed minutes with good fixtures. And to be fair, apart from Liverpool away, Palace at home, Fulham at home, and Leeds at home to a certain extent as well, is not that bad. And even West Ham away isn't either. My problem is, I don't really see him as that great an FPL option. Of course, if they keep getting penalties, then he's perfect. And I know he's on a lot of set pieces. And I know another thing people always say is, he's on 142 points. Right? I absolutely get that. And if I look at midfielders, Where does that put him? It puts him quite far up the list. It makes him the 6th top scoring midfielder this season. Now, overall points are good, but they are not the be-all and end-all of an FPL season, right? One of the reasons he's got that is because he plays 90 minutes every week. And fair enough, if you want someone that's going to tick over every single week, then someone like James Ward-Prowse is okay. Gets you a good total by the end of the season. But we have transfers in FPL, and over short stints of time, when you're bringing a player in, you've got 4 game weeks left, is he explosive enough to deliver the points? So if I change my other screen to points per match, Ward-Prowse goes down to... I'm not even going to count how far down the list that is, but like 20th, 25th, I don't know, something like that. He's below Pereira, Rafinha, Mount, James Rodriguez, Foden, obviously. I mean, that's maybe not that weird. But there's lots of players he's below, although he is ahead of some players like Bernardo Silva, Trossard, Neto, etc. So he's not been that bad. But when I look at his underlying numbers, right? So if you remember when I was talking about Lingard saying his numbers are not that bad, he's probably not going to keep this up, but his numbers aren't that bad. He was something like 0.35 expected goal involvement per 90. Ward-Prowse is 0.15 this season. That's really low. I know he's on a lot of set pieces. Personally, I think there's much better options. Again, if you've only got 5.8 million to spend, fair enough. He does have a double. He's not blanking in 36. I can see why you might be looking at him. But for me, there's just much better ways to get points, right? Surely we're not that worried about cash. We've only got 5.8 million spent. I suppose there was a few people that went for like Neto at 5.7 a while ago and still trying to replace him for the same price. Same with Rafinha, right? If Rafinha's still going to be injured, then yeah, of course, Ward-Prowse is a better option. But I would try and find money and just go up a little bit. Maybe to the next player we're going to talk about, Greenwood potentially is a better option. There's just more explosive players that are possibly going to get you more points from now until the end of the season. I'll tell you what, there'll be a load of people watching this who just don't agree and think Ward-Prowse is brilliant. Let me know in the final game week of the season when I start making videos how many points he's had from now until then. My betting, unless he gets a few penalties, it won't be enough to warrant a place in our teams. Points are precious right now, or transfers are precious. We've only got 11 players to pick from every single week, 4 weeks left. For me, he's just not a good buy. I wouldn't buy him. I'd probably avoid him. Lastly, we got Zaha, 66,000 transfers in. I will say with him, there were some weird quotes after the game from Roy Hodgson about him, and I was trying to make... It sounded like he was potentially injured, but then he just played anyway. So he said in the warm-up he was striking and felt something in his groin, but he was adamant he could play through it. There were moments he looked a little concerned, but I can't point to anything where he didn't do his job and the work that he should be doing. He's done very well. What could we do? The medical people couldn't find anything in the few minutes before kickoff. So basically they're saying he felt something. He said he was fine, so he played on. So unless Hodgson says something in the next press conference, he should be fine to buy. But, as always, I wouldn't make early transfer unless you absolutely have to. But overall, I quite like Zaha as a pick. Now, Crystal Palace, like if you watch my, I think it was the double game called the free hit video, Crystal Palace are not great. Okay, they've got a poor attack, but Zaha, a bit like, I don't know, Chris Wood at Burnley, anything that goes through Palace's attack kind of goes through Zaha. So looking at his own numbers, 0.21 expected goals per 90, 0.1 expected assists. That gives him 0.32. Double what Ward-Prowse is, by the way. And he's playing two really poor defences, especially Sheffield United, but to a certain extent Southampton as well. Then it's Villa at home, which isn't too bad. And then Arsenal at home, which is okay. And obviously Liverpool away is tough. So especially for the next 2 game weeks, he's pretty decent. So I quite like him as an option to buy, although as you can see from the stats, not been great. 3 shots in the box in the last 6 matches, 0.72 expected goals. So you are really trying to play the fixtures here. He is a bit of a differential, and he has done pretty well this season. I think, if anything, he's probably been underrated. I've spoken about this before. By me in particular, I'd say he's been underrated. Like, he's 4.9 points per game, which isn't too bad. He's only 7.1 million. He scored 10 goals, got 4 assists as well. I actually don't think he's that bad of an option at all. So I actually quite like him. The thing you'll get with him when he's fit is definite starts. Like Maddison's having his minutes managed a little bit at the moment. Greenwood, I wouldn't be 100% confident, although the fact that he got rested in the Europa League for the first game, we don't obviously necessarily know at the time of recording about the second game, could mean that he gets a bit more time in the league like he has been. But around the 7 million mark, I quite like Zaha. I think the double's probably the best double there is, unless Liverpool get one. And Villa at home is a good follow-up. And I wouldn't even be that worried about playing him against Arsenal either. So it's a bit of a punt, because his stats haven't been great. Crystal Palace are pretty poor, but the fixtures are there. I like him. I think it's a good buy. So there we go. That is it for this one. Thank you very much for watching. Please do give it a like and hit that subscribe button if you are new around here. I should have the game week preview out at 6 p.m. tonight. So like I said, for the last couple of days, I'm trying to do early morning and then early evening as well, just to get a couple more videos out before the Friday deadline, because it is another quick turnaround. So keep an eye out on Twitter and on the community tab on YouTube to get your game week preview questions in. If you have enjoyed this video, do give it a like and hit that subscribe button. One quick shout out to the Patreons as well. Thank you to everyone that signed up. If you want to check it out, see what it's all about, there is a link in the description below which you can click through, and obviously you can read all about it. Obviously no obligation to sign up if you don't want to. Just continue supporting on the channel as you have been. It's been a mad week already. Let's keep going. Plenty more videos to come. I'll be back, like I said, this evening and tomorrow with team selection. And hopefully, I don't know, at the time this video has gone out, there's probably been no fixture announcements, but hopefully we get them soon. And once we do, I'm going to talk about them as well. Thanks for watching. Hit that like button, hit subscribe, and I'll see you again soon.